Okay, Jeff, thank you for being here. Everybody actually have some experience with art lah. So the idea of the podcast is for us to share our life in art. So it comes from multiple perspective lah.
Yeah.
From the artist, from the people in the industry, from the people who are passionate about art. So here we are in Fragana Art Space. Maybe we can start, if you can give a brief introduction, how you get into the art world, and we go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I when I was doing Bachelor of Surveying and also Civil Engineering at university, I also did fine arts. I took courses in fine art. If I stayed a little bit longer, in the mid-70s, I think I probably finished with a fine arts degree and probably forgotten about my engineering, civil engineering studies. I would have probably forgotten. So as it turned out, I was on a government scholarship, so I had to come back immediately after I got my first degree, and then come back and serve the government here, which I didn't. Fortunately, I came back right in the middle of the recession when I think the oil price was $8 a barrel, so really was a recession. So the government had no job. So then I worked in the private sector, but my interest in art has always remained. Even when I was doing art courses, I was doing photography, filmmaking, film critic, and the writing part of art, the analytical part of art, rather than the art making per se, studio work and whatnot. So I guess it stayed on for a long, long time. And I continued to collect bits and pieces of art, became friends with the artists in the late 70s, the early 80s, and some became lifelong friends until they left, I mean, Pia Dasa, Ismail Hashim, Ismail Zain were my good friends, and people around him, Joseph Tan and whatnot, and but I've never really collected a lot of their work. But I also became an accidental shareholder of Sarjana Fine Arts in the early 80s, but not by really wanting to do it, but was just to assist Pia Dasa, who was running the art gallery a little bit at that time. And when he was a little bit short of funds, I was always there because we share the same office. Well, I wouldn't say we share the same office. His gallery was just a couple of floors above, one floor below my office. So we became very good friends. To get into art, I thought in the early 2000 or the 2010, like that, that period after the mortgage crisis of the global mortgage crisis in the US, especially. My career in investment banking, in financial advisory, sort of stopped. And then I decided, okay, we'll just open an art gallery and see what it's like. But it's accident basically, because when I was away doing my corporate work, I stored my paintings and my art collection with a friend who's also a gallerist, and then I decided to go. Then one of those days, which is not a very good thing for you to put in a podcast, then I found at least one huge painting was in the auction in 2012. And I was accused of my dear wife for saying that I was acting behind her back and selling all the artwork. But I've never seen the artwork for many years. I think for a lot of years. It was just in storage. But never mind, they cut the story short. I said, okay. I did the next logical thing was actually to go and pick up whatever was left. And then I had to find where to store it. So I ended up, renting a space and make himself as a gallery. That's how I entered the art business. It's actually to put
all your collection.
Yeah, to put a place for all the artworks first. So I decided maybe it's time to show and to sell, whatever that means. And then how I actually was motivated is I promised the late Ismail Hashim to actually have a solo for him. Because when he was doing the retrospective in 2010 in Penang, he called me multiple times trying to find where I kept the artworks. And actually the artworks was my friend, so I think one of the collectors managed to track it, and some of it was shown in the Penang Art Museum. And then when I actually decided to talk about art, I think I promised him in 2012 that, if I'll do I'll do a solo for you because I owe you quite a lot, you know. And then we're preparing the solo in 2013, and a few, you know, more than a couple of months later, he just died in a car accident, in a motorbike accident. And then I discussed with Hoi Chong, who became the lead curator, and we had Unpack Repack. That's how I started. You know, it was
I remember that one.
yeah, it was not like I wanted to be a gallerist. It's not that I'm a social snob, you know, who wanted to be an art gallerist and show off what I have. No, you know,
but how do you get into how does the appreciation of art basically ease into you? Education?
Yeah, education, because mainly it's education, and I'm not sure. None of my family had really genes except an uncle also, you know, who are really artists. But we don't have in the family.
So in the old days, were there like specific curriculum on arts appreciation or arts?
Or when I was in secondary school, there was, of course. So,
because later throughout the years, it's more concentration on science and technology, kan?
Yes. I'm a victim of that, lah. I would have been in the art sector for sure, kan? I would have been an economist or a journalist or a writer if I didn't get to do an engineering as what the government wanted me to do. But that's about it. But as one grows older, art has become something quite important, I think. I mean, very important. It's a foundation of a nation, foundation of the person, or your own identity. Kan? That's it. So if you want me to, the real motivation to do art was I thought of this grand, big idea, a bit pompous and very bombastic idea, that I think one of the ways to, certainly one of the easy way, or not the easy way, to bring back the Malays together or to uplift the Malays is for them to know their own culture. Correct. So I thought having an art gallery, a commercial art gallery, participating in a few art projects and whatnot would do that. But obviously is rubbish, because is a how do I call it, a misconception on my part, misreading. Because for more than 600 years, the Malays haven't really grown, you know, from the Malacca Sultanate. So until now, so it's the same thing. So if I thought 10 years of doing Fergana art can change the Malays, make the Malays and the Malaysians more culturally aware, culturally confident, have their own sense of self-confidence, used by having a commercial gallery for 10 years, I think it's a bit preposterous. It's a bit pompous on my part. Obviously, I was wrong. You know, I was wrong. But having said that, over the last 10 years, I've developed certain ideas of what art is all about and how art should be.
I think that's the missing link lah kan, because I'm 10 years younger than you lah. 10 years, 11 years younger than you. Curriculum masa kat sekolah menengah tu purely maths and science. Anything yang closer to art pun architecture aja at that time, right?
And it's also science.
It's also science,
maths basically.
And as I went through my career, there was a yearning to know aku ni siapa kan? Am I a Westerner or am I a Malay kan? And I get art, so I went into it. Because I think art ni, it teaches you adab. It teaches you critical thinking. It teaches you tolerance. Kan? And it's good lah for a multicultural society like us kan. Tapi the money is not there lah kan. Or so they say lah kan. So now, where I'm getting at is that I wanted to understand how you get close to art, and then you were a banker. You were. And then you came back. Okay. So do you have an opinion of the business or not? The art business?
No, first of all, on education, it should not be STEM. Actually, it should be STEAM. It should be science, technology, engineering, art. So the A is art,
STEM.
and then STEM. It should be not STEM. It should be
STEM.
STEAM. You know, you have to include A and alphabet inside there, and then it'll be more interesting, because it's even far more important now, because artificial intelligence and whatnot is actually mimicking imagination. Is actually a manifestation, technology to manifest and to translate the imagination, kan? Which is what artificial intelligence cannot do, or or because the machine is not quite sentient yet. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I think now with AI, it's probably more important to teach art.
Yeah.
And to emphasize the imagination part for the students, because you cannot Steve Jobs can never invent the Apple unless he has a huge amount of imagination, and his huge amount of imagination actually comes from his own creative mind, somewhere on the right side of his brain that actually makes him do that. For example, one of the most famous things that Steve Jobs said is that he wanted a computer to be like the telephone directory.
Yeah.
The size of the telephone directory. That's why so it's a database thing. But how do I see the business of art? If I were the financial side of my brain, the business of art in Malaysia is conceptualized and manifest too narrow. The definition is too narrow. So in the fine arts business, in gallery business, buying and selling paintings, trading paintings, auctioning paintings, fine arts painting, art objects and whatnot, I think it's less than 200 million ringgit a year turnover. Yeah. So it's a very small market.
Yeah.
The charity budget for the Mercy, to go and help Palestinians and whatnot, is probably more than 200 million a year.
Yeah.
Or the poverty program, eradication of poverty program, certainly is more than that. So 200 million is too small a market. Mm-hmm. And if I come from the financial side of the business, most of my friends think I'm silly. It's ridiculous. How do you do that? But on the other hand, if you expand the definition of the creative and the cultural economy to be beyond fine arts, to be beyond things that you can actually show in a gallery and whatnot, then you can see it's probably 2 or 3% or even 4% or even more than that of the GDP. Indonesia, for example, included everything that's cultural, from batik to film to fine arts to blah, blah, blah. And it's like 8 to 9% of the GDP.
Yeah.
The GDP of $1 trillion of Indonesia is quite substantial. Kan? That's like, few billion. Kan? So, and once the government accept that or use that definition, then certainly people can have ambition that, yes, I can make the cultural economy, I can participate in the cultural economy, in the creative industry, I can make a career out of it. But right now, it is, I wouldn't say even people make it as a career. It's almost treated like you cannot get a job. Okay, you become an artist. Yeah. You're the back of the class. You're not the smartest guy in the class. Yeah. You go to the art stream, join the art club, learn how to paint. Right? Yeah. So eventually, you do not get arts and literature. You don't get the great thinkers or the big thinkers of the country involved in arts and literature, which is a shame. Yeah. Because great movements in the world, and whether it's modernism, postmodernism, whether even social theories and whatnot, doesn't come from politicians, doesn't come from engineers. Usually comes from philosophers, social scientists, or anthropologists and things like that. It doesn't hardly anything come out from an engineering school to talk about philosophy. If
you look like Korea, kan?
Yes.
At one time, I think in the 2011, they really invest in a cultural policy that spreads all their culture. Sampai orang Melayu pun dengar lagu K-pop. I remember going to art fest. There's like, an invasion of Korean galleries.
No, Korea is if in our lifetime, if you would find a country that's actually very successful to leverage culture and use technology to enhance their culture, to disseminate their culture and send the right messages, however kitschy or tacky that thing is, it's probably the only country that's successful in post-war World War II. I remembered in Korea, I had personal experience because when I was building Time Telecoms from scratch in 1994, I went to Korea to meet my peer, which is the people from Korea Mobile Technology, KMT. And we were building almost the same network. Time Telecom was building a broadband network along the highway and festoon cable around the peninsula. Similar broadband network. Korea was building the same thing, almost exact thing. That's why Korea was always our model.